just out of a big debut on Monday Night Raw. AEW being preempted by basketball. NXT having to move as well. We got a lot to get into. It's just me and you and the questions you have. It's Wrestlezone. Ask me anything. What's up, everybody? I am Kevin Kellam, coming to you live on Facebook and YouTube, and in your ears on the podcast as well. Go ahead and subscribe as well. It is available on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, all the podcasty apps. We're there. And of course, growing a bit on YouTube as well. I like to do these now. I'm going to try and do these a little bit more often. As we did one last week, and people seem to really respond to it. I thought maybe me just talking to you solo would not be a good idea. But if you're a fan of it, definitely give the old thumbs up on this and let us know what you guys think here. And fire off your questions as well. This works with you guys having questions, even if you're not taking this in live. We'll still try and answer those questions as well in the comments below. It's all about engagement and talking about things going on in the world of wrestling. If you're following it, maybe you haven't followed it a while, maybe you're just a casual fan. If you just want to ask, hey, who's this character? What's the storyline? I don't mind including people in on all those different things here. We have a couple questions I'm going to jump into right from Twitter. It's about everything going on in the world of wrestling right now, or maybe even beyond, or maybe some question you have about something that happened in the past. And if I don't have the answer, I'll tell you I don't have the answer. I want to jump right over to Twitter. You can follow us at WrestleZone.com. This is from non-WWE guy. He has two questions. Where does Aleister Black go from here with his apparent heel turn? Yes, last night on Monday Night Raw, Aleister Black was the guest on Kevin Owens' KO show and laid him out with a kick. Just laid him out. It was brutal. And Kevin Owens didn't have much to say because his face was down in the mat after that. Where does he go from here? Well, obviously, it's Kevin Owens and Aleister Black going at it down the line. They've had, I think, maybe one or two singles matches, but nothing I would say a full-fledged feud. This is interesting for Aleister Black to turn heel. I do think the babyface experiment with him ran its course. I do think he could be a little bit more compelling as a heel. They debuted him as sort of as like a tweener where you didn't know where he stood, but I think him being a compelling heel who's evil and relentless and mean is lends itself to his character and how he talks. Him against Kevin Owens, who I think is you told me Kevin Owens is going to be a clicking babyface. Well, I wouldn't believe it, but that match with Seth Rollins at WrestleMania is really underrated. And that worked because he worked as a babyface, worked as a hero. So I could see these guys getting in the ring, maybe somehow clashing at Payback, but them doing something into the end of the year could actually be interesting. A couple of stipulation matches, the promos. I mean, certainly it was an interesting start. It wasn't the biggest thing on the show. Obviously, most people were talking about this week's Monday Night Raw with Keith Lee's debut and Retribution ending the show, taking out Dominic Mysterio and Rey Mysterio. So there is that. So it could be interesting. I'm not saying I'm loving it. I'm not saying it's the hottest feud, but it could grow into something. You have two very, very capable guys. And Aleister's shown that he could definitely get on the mic and do some dynamic things. So he hasn't done any promo-wise that leaves people talking. Kevin Owens has. And Kevin Owens has proven that versatility. Let's get into his other question here. Am I the only one who feels that Ortiz and Santana in AEW have been treated like an afterthought in the inner circle and need to break away to get the respect they should? I've heard some people say this before, because they're such a compelling tag team. But I would say the issue with them is they really work and they're very animated. So I think sometimes when you see someone who's really animated in a group of characters, people say, oh, that animated person should step away from the crowd. I think for them right now, they're doing very, very well in that supporting role. And I think AEW has a lot of individual acts that are popping in groups. So people say, oh, this person in this group should break away from it. I've heard people say it with Dark Order. I've heard people say that with, the tag teams, even their tag team champions is all based on the idea of when do Kenny Omega and Hangman Page break up. With these guys, I think them in the inner circle actually works. Kind of works. I mean, have they alluded to them breaking away from the group? Obviously, that's just kind of fantasy booking. Hey, would this fantasy booking work? I'm used to questions like that. I know I'm going to get a couple more of those. Hey, what do you think of this idea that I have that they should do on television? Those questions are fine. They're not great questions, though. But I will answer. I think they should stick with the inner circle. I would like to see them develop more. I mean, the group is still very, very young in the tooth. I don't think they've played that out yet. Anthony Phillips, get to your questions that are going to pop up here on screen if you're with us live. Anthony Phillips is jumping in here. He says, Tessa Blanchard, go to WWE. is she going to WWE? Well, Tessa Blanchard left Impact Wrestling on pretty unceremonious terms. She got to be the first world champion there in intergender, crossing intergender invisible line there, and won the title and left the company because she just didn't want to come and drop the title or even film promos for it. And she did perform at WWE in the Mae Young Classic a few years ago, but there's a lot of talk that maybe, if Tessa could shed whatever bad reputation that people have put on her that she has developed for herself. I'm not implying that either. I think she could be a player in WWE. I think she'd be a great addition to NXT. I think she could go right to SmackDown Raw. I mean, because she knows, and I think when people say, why would that person be good to going right to those shows? It's framing for camera. I think and that's one thing I hear from people in the industry all the time. Do you know how to frame to camera? And some people do. Some people have to kind of learn that other hoop there with WWE. And AEW would really want her. I think AEW probably needs her more than WWE does right now in terms of depth for the women's roster. And I think AEW need a big female superstar to kind of boost their women's division. So I think she'd make a little bit more of a quicker splash in AEW right now than she would in WWE. But certainly the matchups in WWE with her would be exciting. Her versus Charlotte, whew. Tessa said that she wants that match. That would be an absolute WrestleMania match right there. Those two just absolutely physically gifted, very tall, very strong performers, could do some really special things there. And so let's get into different questions. You have Bittman again is with us here. He's on the shows quite often. Thank you so much for the support there, Bit. Do you think Roman may be a part of Retribution? This is a question that's been growing. A lot of speculation about this. Roman Reigns made a huge return at SummerSlam. Our SummerSlam post show is up if you haven't checked it out. We have a lot of different fans on that. Thank you to the more than 15,000 of you that watched that show in the first 3 hours. Thank you so much. There was a very, very big audience for us in a short period of time. Roman Reigns running Retribution would be very, very cool. I think he is a guy, the first time you saw him, mainstream wrestling fans really saw him, didn't see him in NXT. He was in a tactile group, not that they didn't have the vest when they premiered as the Shield. I was there that day. They had they would turtlenecks on. But the real image you have of them is like them wearing those tack jackets and being sort of like a tactical SWAT team sort of wrestling group. And that feels kind of aesthetically and spiritually akin to this disruptive group that comes in and has a mission. No, they're more rioters, and the Antifa stuff is all there, but I would say, yeah, there is a part of it that makes me think he could be a player in it. I don't think they're going to roll this group out without at least one big name involved. And maybe that name isn't as big as you think it is. I definitely feel like Donovan Dijakovic from NXT is a part of the group, especially after seeing them recently, and especially on Friday Night SmackDown. He was a very tall guy, 7 foot tall. You can't miss a 7 foot tall guy. But they've been pretty good about keeping those identities protected. We will see Tommaso Ciampa on Wednesday on NXT. A lot of people have theorized that he is a part of the group. And of course, everyone's thrown CM Punk out there, but CM Punk playing around with people on the internet, I don't think he's part of the group. I don't think this is how he would want to introduce himself back in wrestling. And just got to throw water on that fire that anyone's trying to start there. But I think it's possible. I don't know if he is a part of the group. And I enjoy the speculation of who's under the mask. Always a fun question there. And if you guys are enjoying this and having a good time, go ahead and share the link as well. Even if you're not if you're watching on later on live and you guys just have questions in the comments, we'll get to those as well. Let's get another one here. Okay, here we go. I do want to talk about this because this kind of came together in the last couple hours. Laura at Sexian said, I just read about the idiot that had he had a KKK hood, and there will be legal ramifications. Don't know about the legal ramifications. So what is this story? What is this comment? So WWE did respond to this. Ryan Satin of Pro Wrestling Sheet reaching out to them, and they said it was abhorrent what occurred. This was during last, I believe, Friday's broadcast of SmackDown, the television debut of Friday or Monday Night Raws. I'm trying to read a bunch of different notes here at the same time on the side of my screen here. And the Thunderdome allows a lot of people to appear on screen. You guys have seen this before. Oh, people put up a Fire Velveteen Dream and that story. Someone put on a picture of Chris Benoit in the background, all these different things. Someone, pulled up their shirt. It was a guy, not a woman, obviously. Maybe they get a little bit more attention. You pervs. But obviously one awful person put up a picture of someone in a KK hood with a Confederate flag behind them and different things like that. And so this is the issue that WWE is going to have when they're trying to do this Thunderdome thing and be interactive. You've already had a couple of people behaving badly. The statement that they issued to Ryan Satin said they would ban this person as well. I don't know what the legal ramifications could be, but we have spoken with several different people. 2 different people from Wrestlezone have been fortunate enough to be part of Thunderdome. Our own John Clark was a part of the debut broadcast on Friday and also at SummerSlam. Our own Bill Pritchard also was in the Thunderdome for a little bit as well. The process to get in there is kind of hard. You kind of have to keep an eye on their social medias and the actual website Thunderdome to sign up. And they do have protocols for how you're going to behave. They do talk to you in your headset between commercials and different things like that. And they do phase people in and out throughout in terms of who you see on the screens and different stuff like that. They have thousands of people. Now, I believe there's over 200 screens, 200 LED screens that they're using, but they phase people in and out at different positions. And sometimes it's kind of hard to catch people doing this stuff if they're going to do it really, really quickly. I think you got to watch out for stuff like that. Some people are going to try and do silly stuff like that. I think you're going to see people do a couple, political messages and different things like that they're going to try and use. But I don't know. The only way that gets out is if someone stops it and catches it very, very quickly. I don't know how much it can be. And it's just, and then some of the silly ones, like the Chris Benoit one is gross and stupid. And they're going to be trolling. And then, someone's going to try and flip a bird at the camera and all this ridiculous stuff that it's just WWE's the number one company. And people are going to try and go after them and do this type of stuff. That's it. It's really that simple. And it lends no credence to what they're doing. It kind of takes away from whatever message you were trying to get across. And obviously, KK Group doesn't have any. They don't have any position in society. They should be a skid mark in the old underwear of the past, man. No place for them. No place for it in wrestling. I don't want it on my screen. So good on WWE for trying to act on it as quickly as they can. I don't hold against them, because do you know that's going to happen? Same way if you were doing if you're doing a live show and there's a real audience, someone got up there and started doing awful things, you take care of it as quickly as possible. So yeah, other questions about this as well. So other people texting about this. So if you're with us live, go ahead and fire off questions. I'm going to try and answer these as quickly as I can. If you don't see me answering your question right away, I'm going to try and get to it as soon as I can. All right. So Ian Luke Jones wrote what looks like a novel of a question here. I'm going to try and answer this as much as I can. Do you think wrestling would benefit from taking a break during the pandemic? It crossed my mind the other day that that instead of just treading water and keeping things going, we would have realized what we take for granted if it wasn't there, and it would have had a massive impact on people watching when it returned. This has come up again and again in our discussions and our conversations. And like I said, I don't mind answering a question again and again. If you would have asked me a month ago in May, as we're coming out of this thing, I was like, no, we got to keep going. Things are getting a little bit better, a little bit more manageable. And then we had a surge in early July in the United States in cases. And WWE and AEW are running in Florida where cases are not good. So I'm of the thought that WWE and AEW, the 2 most prominent companies, are going to run. And I do think you look at the NFL, they're going to try and run games. The NBA is doing it in the bubble. NHL is doing it in the bubble. MLB is doing it, but they haven't done it in a bubble, and they've had a lot of outbreaks. I do think there would be, as you mentioned, hypothetically, some type of, wrestling's back. And I know some people like Robert DeFios, who appears on the Wrestlezone podcast and these live streams with me all the time. He is a proponent of that. And I even heard some people saying after the Speaking Out movement, they should do it for that reason. Even if he had fans. I just don't think it's going to happen. So if you're going to keep doing shows, do them as safely as you possibly can. Do them as safely as possible and test and test and test and test and try and mitigate the risk as much as you possibly can. If WWE could do a bubble, do it. You know, I mean, like, but I don't. They aren't putting people in a like isolated hotel or anything like that, as far as we know. So it's definitely there. I just think there would be a big pop though if they went away for a while and they came back. There would be an interest in that. But WWE's not set up to do that, and neither is AEW. They are built on first run content and having new content every single week. And it would take a while for them to get the audiences back and numbers they had if they went away for a while. Nick is texting in, is Renee Young really going to AEW? That is pure speculation. Renee Young posted a very, very beautifully worded, sometimes long for, I heard some people say, oh, this goodbye letter is way too long. She posted this, and it's on her Twitter. You can link to it through the Players Tribune. This is a beautiful goodbye letter where she detailed everything great about her time in WWE and how special her time was there, and how many gifts she had. And she specifically named many, many people, including WWE Chairman Vince McMahon, and how much she appreciated his approval and how special it was to get approval from him, even after a simple broadcast or something like that, and her various different shows and stuff like that. She expressed that talking smack was the favorite thing that she did in WWE, and how thankful she was that, just through matter of chance, she met her husband there. So it's a very, very beautiful letter. Do I think she's going to AEW? I don't know, and I'll say this. I said this last week when the news came out. I don't think she needs to stay in wrestling. This is somebody that was supposed to be on ESPN before she was with WWE. I don't think she needs to stay in wrestling. I think there's a lot of things she could do. I think she could do a daytime talk show. I think she could do a lot of dynamic stuff. And there's a lot of opportunities out there for new shows to tell stories. And you need an endearing personality to host that. And I would say if there's one word you could say about her, it's endearing and graceful in these very weird worlds. I don't think AEW needs her, and if AEW brought her in, what would that mean for Dasha Fuentes? What would that mean for Jen Decker and the people they have there? I also don't think they want a backstage personality that would take so much attention away from the talent they have. If you bring in Renee Young and she's interviewing Sammy Guevara, I think more people are going to pay attention to Renee Young. It wouldn't surprise me if Renee Young, maybe after this WWE period or non-compete or whatever it is that she has that's legally tied to her contract, if there is one, that maybe she would just appear on television with Jon Moxley just to pop the number, and AEW is fond of stuff like that. I just don't think I don't think it moves somebody who's not going to come in and want the type of money she had in 2012 when she came into wrestling. She would move the needle. There's a lot of people who really like Renee Young. A lot of fans of Renee Young. A lot of people enjoyed her on Total Divas, enjoyed her on Total Smack, enjoyed her on Monday Night Raw. I don't think AEW is going to want to spend. Put it this way: would you believe that Renee Young could be one of the top 5 paid talents in AEW? Because if she came in, she probably deserves the money. Now we're thinking differently, right? And she's worth every dollar. But is she worth every dollar in the sense of what she can do for other people? I don't know. Maybe she does something with AEW. It could surprise me. But if I'm AEW, I would say, hey, if you want to come in and work on a handful of different things here and there, but having her be a part of the weekly product, I don't know. I just don't know. I think there's some very interesting things she can do outside of wrestling. Very, very talented broadcaster, from what I'm told from people that have gotten a chance to work with her. Here we go. Eric Perdone. Do you think once AEW returns to Wednesdays, they will lose momentum and ratings? Well, they didn't lose a whole lot of ratings considering where they broadcast this week. Now, AEW is dealing with the NBA playoffs on their broadcast partner, Warner Media TNT, and the NBA playoffs are pretty big. Saturday night, they get moved around. They actually get moved around to Saturday night, and they have to wait until the NBA game ends. And they went on 20 minutes after advertised. 20 minutes after advertised. But still did pretty well. And maybe that NBA lead-in is pretty powerful for them. A lot of fans following them over there. Did 755,000. Did strong in their demographic. 755,000, that's an average overnight viewership. Doesn't include DVR numbers. Does include a lot of Hulu streaming numbers into Monday. Does include people that are watching the show today. And there's a lot of people who are catching up with NXT TakeOver and SummerSlam, stuff like that. People catching up with AEW. And they're going to have these preemptions the next week. It's going to be on Thursday this week. Do I think they lose ratings? No. I think AEW's proven they have a strong audience. It's gonna the culty audience is gonna fall with them here. I was on the fence of how well that show was gonna do, but I also thought, being on after an NBA game is a good position to be in, and it's a wrestling show, and it's new and it's live, and they were live on Saturday. I think that really helped them. And I think the main thing to focus on is everyone's going to get lost in these ratings. I do think there's a chance with all these preemptions, and TNT looking at their numbers, their competitor, USA looking at their numbers. I don't think USA cares about being in a ratings war with AEW if they could get 400,000 more people to watch the show if they moved it to Tuesdays. If you're NXT and you see if you go unopposed, oh, we're doing what? Oh, okay. I think there's something there. And I like this week because I actually get to watch AEW as it airs. I usually don't get to do that. I end up finding out about it from whoever I'm doing the post shows with on Wednesdays. So something there. Let's get in more questions here. Kind of scrolling through here. I want to keep up with them as soon as I can, guys. I see if you guys don't see it, like I said, if you don't see it answered live, I'll try and get to it as soon as I can. I want to get to some people here. Here we go. Chris Green. Is Aleister Black, a lot of Aleister Black questions today. Is Aleister Black going to become the new one-eyed disciple? Oh, is he going to be a disciple of Seth Rollins? I would be surprised if he went with Seth Rollins since, Seth Rollins took out his eyeball, but who knows, in these crazy, crazy times, you destroy me, Bray Wyatt would do that. He would give you the Sister Abigail and you become a part of his cult, and that made sense in wrestling when you started to establish it. Someone gives you a wound and they get their fingerprint on you, their thumb on you. I don't know. I wouldn't. Yeah, I thought maybe they would go down that road with Seth Rollins. I know everyone wants to see Seth Rollins get Dominic to turn on his father. That's not going to happen. If they're going to do that already, they've already tried a couple times. It's not going to happen here. Okay. Here we go. Kyle Pribla texting in. Kyle says, do you think WWE will start making people pay to be on one of those situations if one of those situations keeps coming up? I guess you're referencing the situation with people putting disrespectful images on the screen, or obviously the KKK thing that popped up on Raw. Are they going to make people pay for that? I don't know what the difference would be if you made people pay for that. I think there could be a conduct clause when you sign up for it, even if you get it free, even if you pay for it. Another thing is if you get a conduct clause, then you're legally held to it. Just like they have those sometimes when you appear on different TV shows, you're on a reality show, you're on a game show, and you're held legally to behavior when you're doing that. And that could happen. And maybe then you're getting more into recruiting people to be on camera for that stuff like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if WWE does that. You're just trying to get 200 extras to be there. So, and WWE's done stuff like that, guys. They've gotten people to be in certain seats. People don't know this. Like when WWE will be doing a live show and they've obviously sold out the floor. When they go live on TV, everyone who's supposed to be there isn't in their seat yet. But you notice how when Raw goes on air and back in the pre-COVID days, pre-pandemic, all those seats will be filled. That's people that have already bought tickets that are somewhere, the cheap seats. They'll go find them and be like, hey, we can put you down on the floor until these people show up. And they have teams of people to do that. And you could utilize the same thing digitally and just say, hey, we're gonna go recruit people. We know these people will behave. We know they're gonna be good on camera, and then we know they're gonna sign a clause or something like that. WWE has the resources to do that. They have all the people to go find that. And it's a challenging situation to be in. But once again, why are they already giving Reigns a match for the Universal title at Payback? Because he's Roman Reigns. Because he's Roman Reigns and he's a huge star and he was the biggest thing coming out of SummerSlam. That's why. And he had a Universal title match going into WrestleMania and he didn't get to have it. So that's why that didn't happen. People are already angry. Oh, they're already pushing Roman Reigns down my throat, right? Joshua Bradley, should they send Dominic to NXT? I think Dominic had the best match at SummerSlam. I think he should stick around WWE Raw for a while. Maybe at some point he goes to NXT. That would be interesting for him to do. I definitely seek out my interview with Rey Mysterio I did last year, in which Rey talked about his twilight of his career, the kind of entering now, and how it's really not about him. It's about him setting up his son for something special. And that was last year. And they definitely had a special moment. I think there's a WrestleMania moment between Dominic and Rey. If that's them having a match against each other, that'd be kind of crazy. But I do think it'll be something with them tagging. I was surprised that they had them tag so quickly on Raw last night. I thought that would have been a real attraction for them to put on pay-per-view, and they didn't end up doing that. I think Dominic has to get his feet under him in terms of like his role completely and defining something in himself. But him performing with his father, it feels special. I enjoy it. I think anyone who's been watching since he was a kid enjoys it. The older audience does. Maybe some of the younger kids too. But you can't deny it. Rey Mysterio is one of the biggest Latin American superstars in wrestling history. And to be able to continue that name and legacy, that means something, especially with the Lucha Libre crowd. And they connect with that. They connect with the name and legacy and things like that. And obviously most wrestling fans do. Randy Orton's a big name. He brought it on. Charlotte as well. And wrestling fans have been conditioned to this. I think Dominic is in a tough position. He was in a tough position at SummerSlam, but they protected him in a lot of different ways. And I'm excited for what his future holds. Let me leave it at that. Joshua Bradley texts in here. He goes, who do you think will switch brands in the upcoming draft? I hope they don't do the network exec war rooms again. Yes, they did this with the network executives for Fox and for NBC. They were trying something there and it just didn't work, right? Different things, different shows, different challenges. Raw is a longer show. I think Raw needs people that can do multiple segments in a show, almost do 2 weeks of what would be 2 weeks of TV in 1998 feels like an entire episode of Raw sometimes now, individually. So you need people that can be dynamic from promo to match, and that's any WWE television, but definitely going from one to the other. SmackDown is a show where I think you got to be able to pull out a big match with some people. You got to have a handful of them bell-to-bell guys, and SmackDown has that. Not to say that Raw doesn't either, but those matches tend to pop a little bit more or stand out a little bit more on the SmackDown side of things. So kind of look at those players and see who you want where. So that's why I see things kind of landing. I think some shifting would help with the tag teams. I think Street Profits and Andrade are kind of a played-out program. I could see those guys kind of moving around. I think that would be interesting. I think Street Profits on SmackDown would be a fun shakeup for them. I think Andrade and Garza on SmackDown would be good too. I definitely would move some of the tag teams. That would be the first thing I would want to do. I would move some of the tag teams for sure. Other questions here coming in. I want to get to some that I may have missed for some people that are with us here. Give me a moment. Be patient. Here we go. Will Shayna and Nia Jax be able to beat Sasha and Bayley for the women's tag team championships? That was the first advertised. There's more matches, but that was the only match advertised as Raw kind of started, right? And we knew we were going to get this, but these became the tag teams that are doing it, and they're definitely breaking up Sasha and Bayley. Maybe the final breakup is this Sunday? Or maybe they put that on television. I can see them doing it on TV too, because they've been such rock stars for WWE. Sasha and Bayley on all three brands have been the biggest thing for WWE this summer in terms of just quarter-hour breakdowns. They beat AEW in a quarter hour. I think it's a possibility. Nia Jax and Shayna as an odd couple tag team. I don't know. It seems like a lot for Shayna to be in that position. Nia Jax has a lot of funk on her with a lot of different fans for a lot of different reasons. But I also think Nia, the ceiling hasn't been touched yet with what she can do. I also think she's underrated in terms of being a performer on the microphone, carrying herself in segments and owning that. And being physically intimidating with the women, I think is underrated. An underrated thing. And they need more of that. Could be something. I'm not writing it off. Other people with different comments here. People have more just like ideas and fantasy booking than you're texting me. I want straight up questions. Who, what, when, where, how? Give me those. Okay, I'm giving you a framework to play into here. So definitely don't be afraid to fire those off. I do want to remind you guys, if you haven't done it yet, the podcast is popping off. There's a lot of things we do in the podcast, just audio-wise, so you don't get in our video channels that you need to check out, including an exclusive interview, most recently with the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, talking about his brand new gambling project and, of course, his historic career. He also gives us insight into why Drew McIntyre is so credible as the WWE champion right now. We get his take on that, and obviously he was involved in a lot of different things with Randy Orton leading up to SummerSlam, so it's definitely interesting to check that out here. Some more questions here to get into. Oh, I like this one. Johan Pina just sent this one in. Johan wants to go, is there any update on WrestleMania 37? WrestleMania 37 announced for Los Angeles, California at the SoFi Stadium. This will be one of the first big events to be held there. At least that is the plan currently. In November, we reported at WrestleZone that Mayor Garcetti, in meetings and in correspondence with the fire department, basically said that he didn't see any large gatherings in the city of Los Angeles and that area almost until November of 2021, unless a vaccine or a strong treatment was created. And I'm concerned. I'm not saying that WrestleMania is going to be called off or anything like that. I'm just concerned. I'm concerned about how they can do this, because they don't control this. They don't control this, guys. This isn't like, oh, WWE could just figure something out. They don't control it. Could I see WrestleMania being moved? Yes. I could see WrestleMania being moved to an area where maybe if everything in the science we hear lines up. You've heard, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. If you follow, you give a go Google COVID-19 vaccine, and you hear it from multiple sources and Operation Warp Speed from the United States government and all the different things that are going on, that hopefully we're on the best track to get a vaccine in the first quarter of 2021. And that is just the time frame in which it looks like things can be done. Now, is that guaranteed? No. But then, what is the process to get everyone vaccinated? What is the process then to open up international travel? Do you have a WrestleMania where you can't have fans fly in from the UK, fly in for the other countries around the world? That'd be a hard thing to do. It's a big appeal to WrestleMania. It's very much a big destination travel out, go see an event. Are we going to be in a safe zone to be able to do that? Because it's going to take months and months and months to do that. I do think it puts WrestleMania in a tough position here. But it is a big attraction. I do think there's a better chance that if anything changes with WrestleMania, that it gets moved to maybe a different area of the country. Maybe it gets moved to Florida. It's easier to run Florida. Maybe they build a bigger Thunderdome. Maybe they build a bigger Thunderdome. Right now, we just don't know. It's so far out, we just don't know. I definitely know that it doesn't look like WWE is going to be running at least through October, because they're going to be the Amway Center. So you're not going to see anything else from WWE outside of the Raw, SmackDown pay-per-views. They're going to run on the Amway Center. NXT will continue to run out of Full Sail Live and honor that agreement that WWE has with them. So that's where it stands right now. Obviously, I think if you're WWE, you want to run SoFi Stadium. You put so much time and energy into it, and it's a great thing for a publicly traded company to run in the entertainment capital of the world, right outside of Hollywood. It would be the best thing for them, but does that mean it's the safest thing? Doesn't mean that. Let's hope we're there. We hope we're there. If they do WrestleMania in Los Angeles, I want to be there. All right. Here we go. More questions. Bits running the questions here. Is there any updates on Drew after taking 3 punt kicks from Randy Orton? All storyline stuff doesn't look good. They put him in an ambulance. Is this how they take the belt off him? I don't think we'll see him on the pay-per-view. Keith Lee will take on that mantle for him. It'll be Keith Lee versus Randy Orton at Payback this Sunday. I tweeted this out. It'd be an interesting way if they took the title off him. Doesn't mean it's good. Interesting doesn't always equate good, guys. So I don't know if this means they're gonna take the question off from here. Other people with different questions here. Here we go. Is CM Punk leading Retribution? I addressed this earlier. I don't think so. I really, really don't think so. I know he's kind of messing with people on his Instagram story and different stuff like that, but he's posting like 7-year-old pictures of himself in Orlando as if they were taking place today. He enjoys that, stirring the pot. I don't think so. I think if he's a guy who returns to wrestling in any way, whether it's WWE or somewhere else, he wants to do it with the crowd reaction. He wants to sell some tickets. Craig Thompson with the question here from YouTube. Thank you so much, Craig. Watch it on there. He goes, what should WWE do about the fans on screen? And there was a video of a beheading on screen. Craig, I was not aware of that. I can't confirm that I saw that or anyone at WrestleZone said that. Not aware of it. How does WWE police these type of things? Very, very hard to do that. Very, very hard to do that. And how do you deal with it? Well, here's how they're going to deal with it in a production way that I haven't even brought up yet, but some people have theorized have already done. And that is use old footage. If someone appears on last Friday's SmackDown, WWE likely owns that footage of that person on camera. So then you can sync up reactions from fans. And you get enough individual people looking at a camera, like I'm looking at this, and they're booing and they're cheering, yay, right? And responding things and laughing, right? And you get enough of them from thousands and thousands of people. And then you just dub them in when you want and operate it the way you want to. If you build up enough bank of that and you can play to them from different things, you have enough resources, WWE does, data-wise, to be able to pull something like that off. I think that could happen. That could happen. That is a pretty likely thing here. Want to get to all your questions, trying to scroll through here and catch as many as I can if you're going with us live. Go ahead and fire them off here. People telling me this is all over Twitter. Well, Twitter, not a great place for wrestling people. Why are so many people so negative on Twitter? So negative. Wrestling Twitter is just so, just claws out. Everyone just, so mean there. And everyone trying to out-mean each other. I had people really, I wouldn't say they weren't mean to me, but they definitely overreacted quite a bit. And some people had some, well-worded things, but there was definitely like vitriol, especially about the Keith Lee stuff. They changed Keith Lee's theme song. They buried him. He's buried because he changed his theme song. I had people really going off me. Go listen to my post show last night. I just basically said I didn't think it was the biggest thing. I didn't think it was the worst quote unquote call up from NXT or anything like that. I didn't get that impression. Keith Lee got to get in the ring with Randy Orton. He had a DQ loss, whatever. Okay, I get it. But he hung in there and he didn't even crack the ceiling of what he can do physically in the ring. So it's okay. It's all right, guys. You got to hang out there with Randy Orton and bang with one of the top guys and be involved in an angle with Drew McIntyre and the WWE champion right away and look like a formidable character. It wasn't EC3 walking out there. Okay? He was Paige. Remember Paige? She got called up from NXT, won the women's title on her first night. I don't think Keith Lee had the worst debut, guys, just because they changed his music. I think it was worse. They actually made him change his look. His gear looked completely different. But people say they did that, right? But they have influence and all that stuff too. People say, Dan Greenhouse, what if Tessa was a part of Retribution? I don't know why she would have. Well, yeah, she has to beef. WWE had an opportunity to sign her a couple years ago. They didn't sign her. I've heard some people say in terms of female characters in Retribution that Chelsea Green could be one of them. Yeah, she was called up to Raw. They didn't do much with her. So we haven't really seen her, right? Here we go. Here we go. Like this one. Another question from Johan Pan. What is the reasoning behind back-to-back pay-per-views? Because we had SummerSlam on Sunday, and we're going to have another pay-per-view this Sunday, and we're going to have TV in between. What is the reasoning behind that? This is called routine wedge busting. It is something I've heard used by people who are involved in the streaming industry, specifically, Netflix and Hulu and different things like that. So say you get WWE SummerSlam and you just get the network for it. You get the $10 from the network and you're just watching your quarters. They're casual fans, right? Or you didn't get SummerSlam, but you heard Roman Reigns is back. Oh, I gotta check this out. Yeah, sure. We'll get it. But they don't have another thing about this is they don't have the they have the free version, like the free tier, right? But they don't have you get the entire network for 30 days for free, right? They aren't doing that promo any offer. They're just offering you a ton of free stuff at a free tier, and then you pay in the premium tier of $10. That's the way it stands right now. This is to wedge bust your routine. All right, get in there and shake up your routine by saying, "Oh wait, I get this. I guess I'll stay around and I'll continue to spend that $10. That's how I get you. That's how they get you. I'll offer you a little bit more, a little bit later. Oh, you get the full meal. We'll give you free dessert. And that's kind of what the idea is. It's another caveat. I think the show will be as big or as noteworthy as SummerSlam? Maybe not. Certainly be interesting. Certainly have some moments on it. They're going to try something here. I would say I'm a little bit more interested in Payback than I was Extreme Rules Horror Show. They had a whole bunch of different things on that. So that is the reasoning in it. The reasoning in it is to kind of break up your expectations. I've heard a lot of people say, how come they don't do pay-per-views like they used to and have one a month and that's it? Or one every quarter? How come they don't have one every 4 months? Because people bring that up. It's like you grew up as a kid and that's when pay-per-view was pay-per-view. But it isn't pay-per-view anymore. Not to say that pay-per-view's dead. Obviously, boxing on pay-per-view does pretty well, and AEW is still doing different things like that on pay-per-view. But WWE is a big enough company and has a big enough portfolio and a big enough library to do different things, like launch an on-demand service and a live streaming thing, and that's their pirate ship, guys. It's been a very good venture for them. They put a lot of money into it and got that thing in the black pretty quickly. In terms of what they invested in it. And is it something you still enjoy? I know some people say, cancel my network subscription. I go in and out of the network subscription. Over there, I got, right over here. You can see the Spotify logo I have on screen. Sometimes I get Spotify, some albums come out that I want to listen to, and I'm not using Spotify, and then I drop it, cancel my subscription. I know a lot of people do that with the WWE network. So if they give you enough things like that in a certain period of time, I'm just going to stay. I'm going to stay for that show next week, right? So it's a way of getting you to stay. Wedge bust your routine. Break up the routine of you only watching for a little time, here and there. Get you to stay on longer. So let's get a few more questions here before I hop out. If you're listening to this the whole time, thank you so much. You were listening to the whole thing. Just random people asking me random wrestling questions. Just getting on the wrestling couch. Some people Marvin Guile wrote like these long things here. And this is all live conversation. I just like the stream of consciousness of this. Let's see here. I got a question coming in, like this one here on Twitter. Someone asking, this was a separate conversation even from Wrestlezone. I liked that you got to see all the women from WWE Raw on the show. Even if they didn't have a match, they were all featured in some ways. They had a bunch of different lumberjacks. And is this one of the first times this has been happened? I don't know if it's the first time that's ever happened. Definitely they've done, battle royals and different things like that where you have all the women in the ring at one time, multiple segments and different stuff like that. Definitely maybe the first time in a long, long time that this has happened. And I know some people complained about, I wish this character was featured, but can't deny WWE featuring a lot of women recently. Women getting a lot of time on TV and having interesting angles like what they're doing with Sasha and Bailey. That's talked about. I see some people say, it's kind of played out. I don't like it. I'm already burned out on them. But if they're getting good ratings, do you blame them for wanting to do more of that? I don't know if that's the first time they've ever done. I would say they've definitely done episodes of Raw, especially when they had less women, or all the women were on the show at one point, or maybe this is the first time they've all been on screen together, maybe since Evolution, probably, if you want to say that. But definitely all of them involved in a match. It definitely seems like an interesting thing here. I want to get to a couple more questions before you guys are before we wrap this up here. Joseph Priestley, hey Kev, what's up? Hey guys, see a couple noteworthy names here. Noel Orlando Roland says, Talking Smack. Yes, they brought this back. The SmackDown post show. Going to start putting these up on Saturdays, I believe, on the WWE Network. He says, Talking Smack was great. Made a point with it took Kofi 11 years to become champion and Miz a few years. This was something that was brought up. And they had an interaction between Big E and the Miz. And Miz kind of saying, oh, I had some setbacks, but I found my way back to the promised land. And Kofi, some people implying Kofi was such a talented guy, but they didn't want to go with an African American performer. And they definitely alluded to white privilege and different things like that, and social issues of race implied in WWE. And it was definitely an interesting conversation, definitely a tense one. But I didn't get the scenario that I think a lot of people implied was there in terms of like a real tension between Miz and Big E. I didn't get the sense that they're going to be on I don't know if there's going to be an angle, is what I'm saying. But there's been many times where things on Talking Smack like that become angles. The stuff with Daniel Bryan walking off camera when the Miz won off on him, and he was the Intercontinental Champion, and Miz demanding respect that he didn't think he was getting as the champ. They've been able to do some stuff there. So we'll see. Definitely we'll see on this week's SmackDown if they want to go with something there. Here we go. Why move Keith Lee instead of Adam Cole? Some people think it was time for Adam Cole, baby, to go to Raw or SmackDown. Interesting. With Keith Lee, he had a huge weekend in Survivor Series near the end of last year. He hung in the mix at the Royal Rumble with Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre. And I think WWE's top brass saw something there, and they definitely positioned him in a big way and wanted to see if this big, formidable, larger than life guy who turns heads in the airport could do it on the big stage, and felt like he did. And then they did the title run with him, the North American title, and they did the world title, and those were successful in NXT. And then let's move him right over Raw. Some people think it may be a little bit too quick. With Adam Cole, people have been saying he should be on SmackDown or Raw for quite some time. Fans, industry people. I think Adam Cole has a dedication to NXT. And there's going to be a handful of guys that just want to stay there. Johnny Gargano said it. He wants to stay in NXT. Just stay there. Adam Cole, though, there's a lot of matches for him. A lot of matches for him to do on SmackDown and Raw. That match he had with Daniel Bryan on SmackDown, that kind of surprise scenario they had back in November, I think it could be special. And I think there's some really, really special things you could do with him. But why leave first? I think it's just a matter of they need something fresh coming out of SummerSlam. Big time show, something new coming off one of the big quarterlies. Let's move some people around and do it away from the draft. Don't get caught and, don't get lost in the mix there. At least Lee gets featured. And some people didn't like it. Changed his theme music, changed his look. Not a fan. I didn't mind it. I thought he hung in there with Randy Orton. The finish was kind of wonky. I just didn't think it was the worst debut. See, worst call-ups. I know I've touched on this. I'm already repeating myself. So on that note, it's time to get out of here. From repeating myself, I need to get some liquids in my body, get some blood in my brain. I want to thank you guys just for hanging out with me for nearly 50 minutes. I was just talking less. Did you like this? Hit that like button if you like this. If you enjoyed this, you watched the whole thing. Wow. You listened to the whole thing. Wow. Thank you so much. I'm so thankful. And I mean this, and I say this quite a bit. We get to do some really, really cool stuff at Wrestlezone. And we're thankful that you take in the content we have, and hopefully we make your day a little bit brighter. We give you a good escape, and you sit at the wrestling couch with us and have a good time. That's what we're going for. We don't want all that crap, people trolling, putting racist stuff on the screen or something like that. They don't have a place in wrestling. We can talk about them, but they don't have a place in wrestling. It's all about trying to have a good time, and obviously a very stressful time. You watch wrestling to escape reality. So let's do that together, okay? Let's do that together, and let's remember to be good to each other. I'll do one more. Twab Ahmed. Thank you so much, Twab. He goes, hey, Kevin, do you see Shawn Michaels costing Randy Orton the match with Keith Lee and Randy Orton? Yeah, that would be. Shawn Michaels got booted there by Randy Orton. There could be something there. Could happen. Shawn Michaels always does a super kick left in him. I can see Keith Lee getting more involved with this angle, and maybe even costing Drew McIntyre the title. I think Drew McIntyre, Keith Lee could have a really nice program. Thank you for the support, Dan Greathouse. Thank you, man. Do you guys enjoy these? if you really enjoy these Ask Wrestlezone Anythings, I'll continue to do them. I thought me just talking into a microphone for this long, just reading your questions up the screen, would not be compelling. But based on the numbers last week, it seemed like you guys really liked it, and even liked it in the on-demand portfolio as well. Portfolio. Who am I saying portfolio so much? The on-demand side of things, people taking the podcast. Oh, also, reminder to the live viewers: you can always do it. You can always watch our shows on demand on YouTube, on Facebook, and listen to them as well in the podcast app, Spotify, Apple, wherever. Go download the shows, go enjoy them, and thank you so much. We will return tomorrow night after AEW. No, not AEW. We may have some stuff on Thursday because they're going to be on Thursday, but after NXT, and we'll have your questions on screen. We'll be covering all the big breaking news. If something really, really big breaks, and you see us popping off at a non-regular time, always jump into those shows. We've had a couple of those. We had that last week when we found out that a couple weeks ago when we knew the Thunderdome was going to happen. We went on with that. So don't be afraid of that. And a good way to know exactly when we go live is to, on YouTube, subscribe to our channel and turn your notifications on. On Facebook, like our page, you have to follow it as well. All right. That's another little factor they have with pages as well. And of course, get the podcast. Listen to it whenever you can. We'll be back tomorrow night after NXT. Remember, when watching wrestling, don't get stressed out that someone's theme music changed.